Hello YouTube, me too back with a slightly different video this time, and this is going to be a collection video, a rather small one, but I was watching a video of probably last week, and it was Ninja Bear Hug's PlayStation 3 collection, and I know that was a response video to the StigsGameRoom, and I thought, why not? PlayStation 3 is a console that I don't know, I quite like it. I don't have a hell of a lot of games for it, and there's some things that bug me about it, but out of the current generation, I don't know, I certainly prefer to the Xbox. I can't really explain why, but that's not a great way to start doing a video. I like it, I don't know why. Anyway, let's get on with it. And this is going to be in order of oldest PlayStation, oldest game. These are going to be kind of like in chronological order in terms of when I bought them. So, the first game up is Bayonetta. No prizes for guessing how they were planning on selling this game. So, yeah, it's a decent game. I actually got this along with the next game with the PlayStation 3 console, and it was a present from my girlfriend, which is a great present. So, I liked it. I actually played it. I completed it, and that's one thing about the PlayStation 3. I've actually, I don't buy a hell of a lot of games for it, but the ones I do buy, I tend to kind of stick with it and play through. It's enjoyable, kind of run and gun, just whack at enemies, so from that perspective it's quite good. I don't know, it seems a little overly forced though in the sexuality. I mean, for her super attacks and whatnot, like she basically takes off all her clothes. Well, it's not clothes, it's hair. And plus the music, that Fly Me to the Moon song. Oh my god, if I hear that one more time, I would have thrown this disc out the window. That's Bayonetta. Now this next game, I absolutely loved it, superb game. And everyone knows it, it's Uncharted 2. Kind of like the Pillar Stone series of the PlayStation 3, frankly, it's the Uncharted franchise. I had heard about it, I thought, oh, it looks a bit like, like a knockoff of other games, Tomb Raider and whatnot. And when you don't own a console, I suppose you don't really get to really check things out properly. But I mean, this was a great one. I mean, to be fair, Bayonetta was good too, to get with a console. I think this is part of the reason why I ended up liking the PlayStation 3 more than things like the Xbox. When I got my Xbox, the games I got with it, I didn't really care for all that much. So I didn't have, a great starting off experience. But, well, Bayonetta was a decent game. 9 out of 10, I'd say that's a little high. But yeah, Uncharted 2 was really enjoyable game, my type of game, because you play through it once. I'm not really worried about multiplayer or all that. My PlayStation 3 is very, very rarely online. But it's really compelling single player experience, and if you haven't, like, if you have PlayStation 3 and haven't checked out Uncharted, that's just crazy, but if you haven't, check it out. And then following on from Uncharted 2, I had to just go back and play the original. And yes, 2 is a bit better, but you can pick this up low enough cost. Sadly, I don't think I have a manual for this one. Yeah, I don't. But I do like the insides where they have the double kind of the double printing of an image on the back. But again, superb game. It's like, it seems a bit cruel to say, it's like a slightly lesser Uncharted 2, but Uncharted 2 is like just more Uncharted 1. There's a great section, I think it's in this one, where you're on a train and you have like machine guns and all this stuff and helicopters coming at you. It's a really exhilarating action game. I'm definitely want to check out Uncharted 3 at some point, but the thing with those games, and the thing with all Sony platforms, is the prices come down. Really, you don't have to go out and just pick them up at launch day. There's very little benefit, unless you want to be lol first, oh I'm so great, I played Uncharted, oh, and I've beat it already. And it took me 4 years when I got Alex Kidd to complete that. I think it took me 7 years to complete Wonder Boy 3 when I got that. By the time I got them, they were all games. When I was younger, I wasn't, lol, I have to be first, oh my god, everyone else, like, you're still playing Uncharted 1? You suck. Uncharted 3 is where it's at. Oh, I couldn't go back to Uncharted 1, that's just so rubbish now. Maybe it's when if you have an interest in retro gaming, you kind of appreciate that the time that you played them, doesn't really matter. Save yourself some money. Next up then we have God of War Collection. Remastered in high definition, and boy are these awesome games. Again, you can pick this collection up pretty cheap, or at least you could when I got it. I really enjoyed God of War 1. That's still my favourite of the God of War games. I had never really got into God of War 2 as much on the PlayStation 2. For whatever reason, there was a lot of line tearing on the screen and it was really distracting. But God of War Collection, I went back and completely bought these games. I really don't do that these days with games, but they were so good I just had to. And they did look better. And they were nicely cleaned up. One thing I will say is though, Sony, you're like Sega. You're cheap gits. Black and white manual. I mean, come on. At least Nintendo usually print their stuff in full colour. I know it's a collection, but you could spend the extra few cents and do a colour print. That aside, well worth picking up if you're a fan of any of the God of War games, you'll know what to expect. Now for something quite different, Heavy Rain. Now, if these games here, they're all action games, pretty much. Heavy Rain is anything but actiony. I mean, there is quick time events, but it's more of a text adventure, or that type of genre, the slower adventure games, and you can really get immersed into this, and it's a nice relaxing experience. If anything, I felt that the quick time events nearly took away from the relaxation or the enjoyment within the game. I suppose they felt that, well, if they don't have something to kind of prompt you to keep going forward and to give you the adrenaline, it wouldn't compete against the likes of God of War and Uncharted. But it's really interesting, but you have to give the time to get into it. You can't just play this in 20-minute bursts. You really are better sitting down for several hours over a few days and kind of completing it all in one go. Well, a few goes. And as usual, Sony and their cheap ass manuals. But that's not why I took this out. I found it quite amusing that they have this origami sheet, and they actually have instructions. I think it's in the manual, I'm not too sure. But it comes up on screen. The game needs to be installed onto your hard drive. If you've got a PlayStation 3, you know all about that. Now, they then give you this sheet and it says, well, you can fold it up and whatnot, and you end up with that. And you're meant to do this during the installation time to basically kill the time while it's loading. I think that's a really novel idea. It's like, okay, we know that there are going to be loading times. We know that, that it's not going to have an instantaneous access like an old cartridge game. So we're doing something to try and mitigate that fact. And I know people complain about the loading times, and I myself really don't like them. However, you have other people who complain that grew up on home computers, things like the Commodore 64 and the Sinclair Spectrum, and they were loading off tape. And you have nothing to do but sit there for maybe 20 plus minutes. Frankly, this didn't take that long to do an install and update, and at least they tried to give you something. I mean, don't knock them on that. And once it's installed, you only install it once and buff, you're off to go. Okay, little disk going, but that's it. Sometimes I think people lose perspective on loading times, and that's coming from someone who hates them. Now the next game, sadly I haven't really got into much, so I can't really comment on it. It's Genji, Days of the Blade. Now the most interesting thing I have to say on this, as I haven't really gotten into it, is whatever the hell has happened to the box. And I'm going to try and take it out and show, but I have a feeling that's not going to really be all that apparent, or maybe it will. The ink of the insert has sort of welded itself to the plastic and come off the insert there. I've never seen that happen on any other box, certainly out of any of the games I have. Nothing like this has ever happened. Now that's the way it came. I didn't store it and do anything funky with it, or I only noticed it when I actually went to clean it, and when I went to take out the insert to clean up the box, and then I seen that the box was becoming one with the insert. Maybe that was the way of the blade. So Don't know what the game is like, but the box is odd, if nothing else. So, next up then we have Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 5. It just doesn't have the same ring to it as 4. 4. Gold Edition. And I tried to like this, honestly I did, but maybe it's just playing it in one player. But compared to playing Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube and the Wii, this is just not that good. It's a decent game, but I ended up maybe getting halfway and kind of getting bored of it. And that's unusual. As I said, every game except for Genji, the first load, God of War 1, 2, Heavy Rain, Uncharted 1, 2, Bayonetta, completed them all. And this one I was really hoping to, because it all includes lots of chapters and all these extra costumes and whatnot, so it's kind of like a pretty complete version of 5. But maybe it was set up to be played in 2 player as well, and I was playing it with one person, and I don't know, it was Shiva or whatever her name is. My God. Oh, how I wish I could shoot her. I wish she wouldn't duck out of the way in time. But she did. So Resident Evil went back on the pile. And then of course we have God of War 1 and 2, we have to have God of War 3. I was really disappointed by this. I completed it, and the first half of the game I thought was really good, but it kind of petered out, and I felt that they're talking about the power of the PlayStation, and you see the trailers and it has these like massive scenes, you're fighting on Titans and all that sort of stuff, but you spend a lot of it like wandering around boxes, like especially near the end, it's like just boxes and boxes and boxes, like, ooh, exciting. I'm so glad we have these super powered home consoles now, otherwise we wouldn't have such realistic looking boxes. I mean, I'd still recommend playing it, but it's not as good as God of War 1 and 2. I don't even think it's as good as the PSP games. Well, game, I don't happen to them all. We got 2 soccer games, kind of obligatory, you gotta get these. These were, I bought these with the next game, so they were 50p each. I took them on, they looked fairly decent, both of them were complete in great condition as well. But they're sports games, what can you say about them? I even like the odd sports game, but there's just nothing to say, is there? And this is the last game that I completed on the PlayStation 3. I really wasn't too sure about buying a superhero game, even though I knew it was getting really good reviews. So I said, I'm not going to pay full price for this, and waited, and I believe it or not, I got this the same day I got my 3DS, the first one, not the second one. And I didn't realise at the time that the box was damaged. And typical, because I had one of those security seals, I couldn't tell that it didn't have its manual. I hate giving GameStop for doing that. But my God, is this a good game. Again, if you haven't played it, you should try it out, because it really does capture the essence of being Batman, and so few superhero games do, and that's why they fail, or that's why they get kind of bad reviews, is because ultimately what you want to do is feel like you're playing the character of Batman, or kind of bring the kind of personality to life in an interactive way, and this game absolutely does that, especially the Predator mode. That is so enjoyable, and in many other games, or if you were to utilise that mechanic, it maybe wouldn't seem so enjoyable. But in Batman, you know that he's the Dark Knight. It makes sense for him to be kind of sitting on a gargoyle somewhere, watching his prey, and then swoop down, choke him to death and swoop away again. And all the guards will then come running to the guy you killed. Oh, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? We know the Bat's out there! Shooting guns randomly, and you can hear them getting more frantic, and you can see their heart rate monitors, and it totally makes the game what it is. I'm out of 100% of this game, which is probably the only one. No, I didn't. I got all the Riddler stuff and all that, but I haven't done all the extra challenges, where you gotta do certain scenes in certain times. But it's one that I could nearly sit down and do. It's that enjoyable. And finally, the most recent game is Sega Rally. This was only a $5, so I figured I'd try it because I like the old Sega Rallies. Again, a little disappointing. I like racing games, and I'd been looking to get Sega Rally for a while, but to be honest, either I really suck at it, or this game just does not capture the same feeling as Sega Rally. I felt that the first Sega Rally was quite arcadey. You know, you didn't really have to worry about realism and whatnot. And this one, it doesn't really feel like it's been realistic, but it doesn't really feel like it's been arcadey either. And as such, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to kind of capture either kind of genre very well. So I played it a bit and dipped in and out of it, but I left it aside for Wipeout HD, and that brings me, a neat segue, onto my download games. And I only have a couple because I'm really not into digital distribution. I bought quite a few on the Wii, and then I don't know, the whole digital thing I didn't like the way it was going. So I picked up Sonic 4 and Wipeout HD. And I got Wipeout HD free as part of the "we're so sorry, we didn't mean to lose all your details and lose the network connectivity and all the services, please forgive us." That's all we're doing. I still haven't forgiven them. No, I didn't care, I wasn't online with it. I was only a little concerned because I bought Sonic 4 online and didn't know if my details had been compromised. Both games I've played in sort of completion, I think, but you know, they were great, but I miss not being able to pick up a disc and do. So it's kind of like, and I only have Sonic 4 episode 1 because holy hell, it's taken them a really long time to do episode 2. Maybe they do need to kind of rethink it. It was a good game in its own right, I suppose, but it didn't deliver, in my opinion. And I've done a video on that, so I'm not going to get into it. And then Wipeout HD. I got it for free, so I really can't complain. But I'll complain anyway. No, I actually quite like Wipeout HD. Yeah, it's Wipeout. If you like Wipeout, you probably like Wipeout HD. It can get a little headache inducing, I found at times when you're at the higher speeds, but other than that, it's a good game. So anyway, that's my PlayStation 3 collection as it stands. I have a feeling there might be a couple more, at least one more addition to it in the next while, something that I'm really looking forward to again. But yeah, it's a console that seems to be the kind of also ran this generation, which is such a weird turnaround. You know, PlayStation 1 and 2 ended up dominating. People seem to retrospectively infer that the PlayStation 1 was a massive success at the gate. It was a success, but it really took a few years before it started to run away with the market. But it's an underappreciated system. I mean, out of all these games, most of them are pretty good, and I'd recommend buying almost any of them. You know, so it's not a big collection, but you know what? Size doesn't necessarily matter, does it? Except Kratos. There it does. Anyway, thanks as always for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, we'll see you soon.